You are watching WOC Concrete Talks.
Hello and welcome to WOC Concrete Talks, dedicated to industry leaders and stalwarts in the construction and infrastructure segment. We have with us our special guest for today, Mr. Amit Barde, Head Precast Initiative, Larsen Toubro Construction. A brief introduction about Mr. Barde. Mr. Barde graduated from Purdue University with a master's degree in civil engineering and worked with a leading US precast concrete manufacturer for a decade as a structural engineer before moving back to India. He has extensive experience in residential, commercial, and industrial precast concrete structures. With a recent executive MBA from Indian School of Business, he is currently actively involved in L&T's endeavors towards adoption of precast technology in Indian residential and commercial construction. Welcome, Mr. Barde. It's indeed a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction, Padma. It's always a pleasure to be at the Informa events and really looking forward to our World of Concrete show later in October in Mumbai. I think we've been talking about this new normal and online stuff. Well, I think the old normal was nice, and hopefully we go back to that old normal soon. So see you there in October.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. To begin with, being the concrete and precast expert, how do you see this market growing in India, and how do you see its role in building smart cities?
Yeah, sure. Precast technology is not really new to L&T. Right? We have been a pioneer to adopt this technology in the 90s for several infrastructure projects or the factory space too. What really excites us now is the interest in the residential and commercial sector that the technology is seeing. Right? This precast initiative at L&T started in 2010, which was specifically geared for a residential and commercial sector. And all these years, last 7, 8 years, we have been kind of experiencing the push side of the technology, where we are going to the clients and engineers and knocking their doors and explaining that the precast technology is here. We have adopted it. We have matured in the technology, and it's there. Now, last 2, 3 years specifically, especially after COVID, we see the pull side of the demand, right, where clients and the engineers and the architects are coming proactively and asking us how they can adopt the technology in their projects, and especially in the large projects at the inception. So that is really encouraging to see that kind of shift that we are seeing in the construction. Right? What we have been always stressing that going forward, the mechanization and digitalization would be the new mantra for construction. And that is being perceived and echoed by the industry itself. I think people are even willing to pay that slight premium to get your projects built faster and a better quality. Now, coming back to the smart cities, I think this is a great era where it's kind of coming together, where even the architect, engineers, and the clients are geared up, and the government is supporting these initiatives where modern technologies can really shape up and be adopted. If you look at that vision, the smart cities vision basically is encouraging to build the economic ability and the overall quality of life, right? They usually, if you go through these documents, you will see 3 key outcomes are specified. One is the livability, the second is the economic ability, and third, of course, is sustainability. Now, how precast will help? If you look at the first two, the livability and economic ability, faster you build, faster you are able to give these structures back to the city can adopt it and start going it. So that's where that speed will come into picture. Now, if you go to sustainability, talking about quick, construction is a messy affair, right? You have to take a lot of efforts now to make sure that the environment is not impacted. But compared to conventional construction, if it comes to precast now, a chunk of the activity is happening only in the factories, which is a very well-defined and a controlled environment. And it's much, much easier to control that overall impact on the environment and the natural resources.
Thank you. Great, sir. What do you think goes into the designing of precast projects, and what are some of the unique and interesting projects that you have been associated with?
Sure. Actually, a lot more goes into precast technology, but that's our burden as a contractor. But usually there is a myth around precast that design is very complicated, and we are building these pieces together, assembling, and how are they going to perform? So this, I would like to take the opportunity here that the design philosophies that we have adopted in India now, these are such that the structure is going to behave similar to a conventional system. So we really don't any have issues in terms of design. We had some concerns over the last few years where we did not have the design codes available, or whatever the codes were there were kind of earlier codes which were not updated, and we had to rely on the international standards. Now, here I would like to give kudos to our BIS, where they have now taken proactive steps where we are developing codes specific to precast technology. And probably in next couple of months, we will have that efforts shaping up nicely where these codes will start helping adoption of the precast technology. So with that, now the burden will go back again to the end users and the clients, right? How would they, or what would they do to help adoption of these modern technologies? And where we feel is there are two significant or considerable aspects to it. One is you have to design your projects to a specific technology, especially the large projects, right? Lot of times what we see is most of the design, the architectural planning is already done, and then we are kind of forcing the technology on it, and that takes a lot of time and efforts, and you are not actually able to take the full benefit of the technology. But if we do it before, let's say you have a very large project, a residential project, and you take that call saying, I'm going to build this using precast technology, or I'm going to build this using tunnel formwork technology, whatever it may be, and then develop your floor plans around the technology, then get your approval. So you have a platform which is well set, and you don't have the challenges that we are seeing so far. The second thing, and which is kind of the next chapter of this, what I mentioned, is the DFMA. If you see design for manufacturing, these philosophies are very well established in countries like Singapore. Hopefully that comes here, where the precast technology is a perfect fit for a manufacturing assembly line. We should be able to build these wall panels and slab like a factory environment in a cookie cutter types environment. Currently, we are not there yet, so hopefully we'll be there in terms of the design.
When do you think this is going to come in, into India, the kind of manufacturing and designing and coming, just placing everything, on ground, and especially with regard to sustainability, how fast do you think these developments are going to come into India?
Yeah. Usually, if you see, I think Indian construction has been really slow to adopt, right? There is always a huge resistance to change. If you see last 30, 40 years, we have been doing the same conventional ways, especially in the construction sector. If you see around, we have the latest and greatest things going on. In other industries, we have the 5G networks now. We are not lagging behind the other developed nations. But construction somehow has been lagging. But at the same time, I think last decade has changed. The government initiatives are there. There are several channels and avenues that are being actually catered for adoption of new technologies. So I feel that the construction industry will now pick it up much faster compared to what we have done in the last 20 years. So maybe the next 5 to 10 years are going to be really, really interesting. And if you see it, yeah, I think that will shape up. So that's what we are really excited about and looking forward to. You take example of Singapore now. When I say this DFMA, the DFMA is not a conventional practice, right? That itself is evolving. They have been using it for last 10, 12 years. But the industry there also has picked up even only in last 4 or 5 years. The PPVC construction, what they call it, is precast, prefabricated volumetric construction, where you are not looking at element-wise construction anymore. You are looking at building the entire room finish it and do all activities in factory and just keep the ready room there at the site. So those initiatives, the 3D printing, like we have our own 3D printing, in-house 3D printing initiative now, where we are actually expecting our own printer in next couple of months, where we'll be starting to adopt that technology for smaller buildings. But we are there. We have approvals in place to even adopt those. So if I have to summarize, I think the concerns on adopting the technologies what we had 10 years ago are not there anymore. We have excellent support from the government. We have excellent supports from the Bureau of BIS to have the codes, and we are really looking forward to this next 10 years.
That's fantastic, sir. So how do you see the precast factory prepare for the digital future, given the background that you have just mentioned?
Yeah, sure. I think what I would like to say first is the digital future is here already, right? It's not a future anymore, at least for L&T. Believe it or not, we announced digital ways in the company in year 2016. So last 4 or 5 years, we have been gearing up and shaping ourselves to get this adopted. What I feel now left is to embrace it, right? That resistance to change is there both within our teams or even on the client side. But you have to be willing to change your ways so that you can actually take the advantage of the digital ways. Somehow, a lot of places it happens, it becomes an extra chore, and hopefully, we are hoping that it becomes a way of life than just an extra step, and that will come. How it helps, we are usually looking at in terms of productivity, right? That's the main advantage where you are overall improving the quality of your workflow. But surprisingly, in L&T, it is also helping us to improve sustainability, right? We have a four-prong approach within the company towards becoming a net zero energy company by 2035. And digitalization is one of the key approaches in that initiative, right? How it helps is, see, we have an array of construction equipment, more than 11,000 pieces of equipment that are already connected, which we are able to track real time. And how that helps me is actually knowing the utilization efficiency, how much each equipment is being used, and actually pushing it to the next level where maximum usage is there from each piece of equipment. And that helps me reduce the overall count of equipment and thereby the overall energy demand. And that's how we are helping reducing that energy demand. Now imagine the same thing being adopted in precast factory, right? On-site construction is the scattered equipment. Like we usually do very large projects and they're everywhere. Uh, Here in precast, we get the same thing in one umbrella in a controlled environment where my network can be state of the art and steady. I don't have issues like signal losses and all. We can control and monitor the overall process also well. So in my mind, this data collection is not an issue anymore, especially in precast. What really we have to take is the next step of actually analyzing the data and then using it for making the key decisions. And that I feel again is much easier in these modern technologies, which work in a structured way, which follow a logical process much better than the conventional ways. So this is where we are looking forward to next 5, 10 years, where we can improve the efficiencies of these modern technologies even further using these digital ways.
Great, thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming to the last question, what do you see as the future potential of precast in India?
Yeah, I think it has a great potential, right? Having said that, do I think that at a snap of a finger we will be doing everything in precast going forward? That may not happen. But there are certain niche areas for sure. Like we said, infrastructure, we've been doing precast, which has become a mainstream solution, right? You can't even think of using a long span girder in conventional construction anymore. Similar ways, large kind of residential greenfield type projects, what we are looking for this housing for all solution, or complex commercial buildings where you have long spans, you need clear spaces where a post tension is becoming an chore, where hollow core slabs or your double T pre-stressed slabs can give you effective solutions. We are getting into now the whole digital future. What we talked about, data centers are getting huge attention, and that's where that energy consumption comes into picture. Your building's ability to work, thermal efficiency becomes an important aspect, where precast can give a really good solution of thermal efficient panels. This is very tricky to do in a conventional system. And what it does is a factory made the panels with the insulation inside with the very low U values. Your overall energy demand goes down. The other aspect that I can see is architectural panels. This is a very widely adopted element in outside industry, where you cast your precast panels, which works structurally, and then this insulation is bringing the thermal value. Your MEP and conduits are already cast in, and then you put your architectural finishing as well in the panel. It could be your white cement panels, it could be pre-painted panels, or there are options where even you can do cast in bricks and on. So what we are looking at with this is the entire creating value, what we call it, is what used to be a structural panel now is giving you a solution without adding significant cost for your MEP, for your architectural finishing, where site activity is brought to almost zero. You get your panel ready at the factory, you bring it and attach it to your building or construct it, and there are no other activities. Imagine there is no scaffolding in a high-rise building that is done for the external treatment. That's kind of ways we are looking at that. So that will get adopted easily, and then slowly, hopefully, we build it up and increase the market share from there. So we are really, like I said, passionate about it and really excited about the future of precast technology in India.
That's really wonderful, and a great future for the construction industry in India. If we move towards this direction, do you think that more awareness is necessary in this direction? I mean, you said that customers are now coming to you, but still, do you think there are pockets where you think more awareness will pay, and we will move in this direction faster?
Yeah, sure thing. I think this is where probably agencies like Informa will come into picture. We are looking forward to a world of concrete as well, where we can showcase it. Finally, it always comes down to seeing is believing, right? So far we have been talking in this sector where we have precast, but now we have large scale projects. The first project that we did, which was a ground plus 23-story building, in 2014 timeframe, has been standing there for now more than 8 years, right? That is the proof of the pudding, which we did not have answered that time, saying how it will behave, what would be the long-term performances, right? The next project now, what we are doing in Navi Mumbai, we are looking at about 50 buildings built using this technology, which are going to be the benchmark for residential construction for L&T. How we have adopted the system, how we have tweaked the system. It's not a copy paste system anymore. It is more of Indianized. It is the details have been slowly modified to suit our needs, and we are there. So that couple of years of experience is also under our belt. So I would just like to close it saying we are ready, whether the industry takes it and all, and actually reaps the benefits that we have to see.
Thank you so much, sir, for your wonderful insights. We look forward to having you in our future programs. Thank you once again.
Sure thing. It was a pleasure. See you again.
Thank you.